So today at work I got to do something I hadn't done in quite some time. Uh, I left IT several years ago and I started actually doing development, and I haven't, sunk my hands into too many computers since then. Also, the world's gone to laptops, so uh, even at home, I don't have a whole lot of time. I don't have a whole lot of time invested in digging into the hardware and making things work that way. Everything's automatic now. Everything's plug and play. You do not understand having to deal with IRQs. If you don't know what an IRQ is, it's a system interrupt, and there's a queue numbering system based. You have multiple pieces of hardware all wanting to access the system. So what happens is you have a queue that these go into, and so the priority on those queues, you have IRQ 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, 8, for the base system, and the system itself is IRQ 0, because programmers and designers all start with 0. It's a labeling system. You start with label number 0. So if you've never dealt with IRQs, you have not actually built a system. Okay. Anyway, I didn't have to deal with that today. What I had is I have a new laptop. Awesome. And I've gotten that laptop to a point where I can use it for my job. There's still a few things I haven't quite gotten done. There's a couple of old software kits that I'm not even going to bother trying to make work because it's a Mac. Okay, so I'm going from Linux to a Mac with a Linux VM on it to cover the Linux only stuff. So there's some stuff I'm just going to leave off until I absolutely need it, and then I'll worry about it then. The really, really old stuff. There is one piece of software. I'm not going to get into what it is, but it's a development software. It's an early. I don't know if you're familiar with Jira, but basically it tried to do what Jira does now in 1995. So some of the stuff you see on that software, which is an in-house software, is from 1995. Some of the instructions, and it's like, oh my God, why? Anyway, moving on. So I get a new laptop. I'm setting it all up, and this is great. Well, I got to send 2 laptops back. One's a Windows machine, one's a Linux machine. The Windows machine was pretty easy because I really didn't use the Windows machine that much. The reason I had 2 is because I was in IT and I had to support both. I had to support Windows people and I had to support Linux people. So they actually gave me one of each machine. I was thinking we would have a lab machine. We would get one primary machine. We have one lab machine to play with. No, we got assigned two boxes. Great. Right up until I had to do a renewal, a refresh they call it. So I get the Mac, and I'm sitting here setting it up, and I'm having a great time. Killed the Windows machine, and there's one thing on the list that you have to do. You have to get rid of the hard drive password. This is it. This is in there. I don't know if you've ever worked for a gigantic corporation, but there's like this step, and then there's this step, and then there's this step to what you have to do on everything. Well, the first thing listed everywhere I went, I've never seen this happen before. The first thing listed everywhere I went, take off the hard drive password. You have to go in and take that off. And you have to do it in a certain way. And the instructions were consistent all through all the system. And everything else was incidental. You could just tell by reading it, that was what they really, really, really wanted you to do. Take off the hardware password. Because what they're going to try to do is they're going to take this machine, they're going to wipe it so they don't really care what's on the hard drive, and they're going to hand it off to either a sales department or to be disposed of. Either way, they don't want any proprietary information left on the drive, at least not exposed information, and they want that hard drive password removed. I always thought the hard drive password was a joke. I remember, because every time I changed my passwords, I would go in and change the hard drive passwords. Like, oh God, I gotta do this again. There was one time on one of the laptops, I don't remember which one it was, but I screwed it up. I actually typoed the password on this thing. I'm like, oh my God, well, it's gotta be these 2 characters. I just happened to guess right, and I got back into the laptop and was able to fix the password on the hard drive. Well, it's a good thing I did, because on my Linux laptop, which was my main primary laptop, it was my laptop that I used for development, everything. it had the hard drive password enabled and the hard drive was encrypted, both. So if anybody steals that computer, it's going to be a real pain in the neck for them to get any useful information off of it, and it's going to be a real pain in the neck for them to actually put another hard drive in it and ship it off and to do anything with it, because that hard drive password is inactive. So the hard drive is a complete waste of time to do anything with. They're going to have to replace that hard drive to get any use out of the laptop. Well, as it happens, that's not how it works. We have to send it back with a hard drive in it. And the hard drive password has to be switched off. They give the instructions for that. When I switched that laptop from a spinning hard drive to an SSD, because the awesome sauce, they came in one day and they said, "Here's an SSD for you, and you can just make this your primary drive." So I pulled the rotating drive out. So when I got the SSD, I plugged it in with an extension cord, a USB to SATA cable. I fired it up and I just DD'd the hard drive. I booted it up on an external Linux, and I just DD'd my hard drive over from the spinning drive that it came with to the SSD. I'm not kidding. I just swapped the hard drives and it booted and it worked. All was golden with the world. I hadn't taken the password, the hard drive password, off the hard drive. So I throw it in a container, going about my day. I'm loving it because it just worked, right? I still had the hard drive still had the same. I was able to go in and just set the password. I was able to go in and get everything set up. And it didn't dawn on me that the old hard drive wasn't going to work. I thought I could just go DD zeros. I could just zero wipe the drive when I was done and swap the drives back. But that's not how it works. Fortunately, I did some research today, because that's what I was about to do. I was about to bring that other drive home because I don't have those cables anymore. I gave those cables back to IT when I switched over to development. I gave them back the USB cables. I have one at the house. We bought at least a dozen of those cables, USB to SATA, and they all disappeared up at work. They were so useful, people never gave them back. If they borrowed them, they stole them. It was the one thing that you never got back. USB drives, you get most of those back eventually, and until they were just sold, people throw them in a drawer and forget about them. But these cables, people hung on to. They're $11 online. I bought like 2 for the house. I now have 2 of them because one of them failed. I thought one of them was failing. I bought another one. It turns out it was me, of course. So I'm thinking, well, I can just swap them back. Remember how easy it was last time? No, not how it works. You put the old hard drive back in the system, and it comes up and prompts me for the password. And I'm thinking, well, is it the old password or is it the password set in the BIOS? Because I'm in the BIOS is where it's asking me for the password. But I can't get into the BIOS because I have to get the password to get into the BIOS to change the password. Well, duh. They want you to get through the security in order to change how the security works, right? So I can't get into the BIOS to kill the password. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's duh. That's obviously how it's going to work. They don't want you to just be able to go bypass the password. What's the point, right? So okay, I put the new SSD drive back in, and I go kill the password in the BIOS, but it's not saved in the BIOS, Kelly. It's saved on the hard drive. So I put the spinning drive back in, and the password's still there. And I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. It would be on the drive itself. Duh. So I'm thinking, can I just DD zeros to the drive and overwrite if I overwrite the whole drive from beginning to end with zeros, will it kill the password? So I had it in my backpack, and I was planning on just bringing it home and doing it, leaving it running overnight. Because I've wiped hundreds of drives up at work to get rid of the data before we ship the drives off. Because every time we throw a drive away, I wipe it with either zeros or, because if you do random /dev/rand, whatever it is, and just write it takes many times longer to overwrite a drive. That does something to the computer that just slows it way down. Okay, so zeros is fine. Even my big huge corporations said no, zeros is fine. The art the voodoo that is trying to recover data after it's been overwritten with zeros is very hit and miss. It's quantum physics and all this kind of stuff, and especially with real equipment that, you know, in the real world, it doesn't always work. It doesn't work very well. So it's more wishful thinking than reality. Sometimes it works, and most of the time it doesn't. So we're overriding with zeros, and you gotta be way up in the levels of braininess to make that stuff work. So that's on, you know, overriding with zeros is fine. Plus, all those drives are encrypted. So you override it, you have an encrypted drive, and you override it with zeros. Well, you know, a couple things here and there out of numbers, you're done. You're not going to find any of your data. So let's get back to my story and see, where was I? All right, so I was going to bring it home, override it, you know, just overwrite the whole drive with zeros, bring it back in. Fortunately, I looked it up. I started Googling around, and I found in more than one place them saying, that doesn't work. The data on the drive is immaterial. Okay, the drive itself is not where the key is stored, not where the password is stored, if you will. It's stored on a chip. If you overwrite the chip, if you try to DD to the chip or something, it's not going to work, because if you fry that, you know, it has some redundancy, it's redundant key and redundant data in there. If it sees that, it's going to know it's been corrupted, and you're done. Okay, you're never going to get back into that hard drive in a way that'll make it useful. So it's written to the chips. Overriding the drive means nothing. Okay, and the thing is, I wouldn't care. Okay, at this point, I would probably throw the drive away if it were my personal computer, because hard drives are cheap. I'd stick a drive in it. If I had to have a drive, I'd stick a drive in it. But this isn't my computer. Okay, this is just going back. I have to send it back. It has to have a battery. It has to have at least one power supply, which I actually have two, and it has to have the hard drive. All has to be there. It has to be accessible, and in like 3 places, redundant. First thing on the list, and everywhere you look on this whole return thing, it says disable that password. So no matter what I would do, it would come up and prompt for a password. It would have to be the right password. So what is Kelly going to do? You know, I go down to IT and I ask them if they have any magic to work on this. Like, no, you either, here's your choices. You can find another hard drive to send back with it, which is fine, because it's not like they're going to check. If they're going to sell it, they're going to stick the cheapest SSD in that thing they can find. So they're not really even going to use this hard drive if they decide to sell a computer. If they trash it, then who cares? But it has to have a drive in it. And it has to at least look like it could have worked. If it comes up with that password, they're going to scream at you. So you got to do something to get rid of that password. You know, and they said, well, actually, we keep a couple of old broken hard drives around because we know people are going to do this. We know people are going to see that, have that password. We'll stick a broken drive in the computer and send it back with a broken drive that won't come up with a password. That's all they care about. And it'll actually satisfy the whole, it'll actually get you over the hump. I didn't have to do that. You know why? Kelly keeps his old passwords. And Kelly writes down his tasks every day. So I knew this was given to me sometime in 2015, I'm guessing. 2015, okay. So I go back to my notes from 2015. I pull up, I have a couple of 100-page document that has my notes, what I do every day. And I Google SSD 2015, and there it is. First thing that comes up. Prepare machine for new prepare laptop for new SSD drive. So now I have, it's in July. June. It's in June, okay? So I know in June is when I did this whole hard drive swap. I then, that's my work notes. So I then close that and I go into my password collection that I have, because I keep all my old password files around. I look for June, and the way I do this is I have my current password file, which is an encrypted file. And it has I use a program called Password Safe. There's a million different ones out there. So I have this file, and when I want to update passwords, anytime I want to update passwords, or add passwords or change passwords, I download this file, I then mark the one that I just downloaded in my cloud account with the date, and I put it in the old folder. Okay, so I know that was the one for everything up to that date. So anyway, so that's how I update things. I go in and I look for the next one past that date, because that's the one I marked old that would have this on it. Download it, open it up, and there's my password. Actually, it threw me off because I looked at the password because I have it written down. Lenovo Linux machine hard drive password. And I looked at this thing and I was like, okay, let's type that in. It didn't work. Well, I tried typing it again. It still didn't work. It's like, oh crap. What happened? I was like, did I have the wrong date? No, I had the right date. I had the right file. This is the file for that date. So before I start going to other files, I'm like, wait a minute. I know how this goes. The one password to change, it's a pain in the neck, is the hard drive password on your primary computer. Because the password file, the encrypted password file, is on that computer. Okay? So you've been changing all your passwords, and I've got 30 or 40 passwords, right? So I have to go here and change my password, I have to go here and change my password. I've got 4 or 5 on this laptop, I've got 4 or 5 on that laptop. They're all getting changed and going into this laptop. And the last one I do, is the laptop, is the hard drive password. Because I have to shut down the computer I'm doing it on, go change the password, and bring it back up. And then type in that password and upload the file back so that it now becomes the primary, so that it now becomes the current file. Okay, so I back up, I go up a level in the list, and I say, well, instead of the hard drive file, let's go look at the Linux and the user / root password. It's something different. It's just the universe screwing with me. It's me screwing with me. Past 2006, 2015, Kelly. How dare you screw this up? You give me a heart attack. All the preparations in the world and get this wrong and it not work. But no, it just turned out I had messed up. I hadn't changed that password. I uploaded the password file without fixing it, not fixing the last thing. So it's my own fault. And if I could go back in time and just this hand come out of nowhere and smack, 2015 Kelly in the face, it would be great. But I can't do that. Worked. So I go in, kill the password on that hard drive, and leave that hard drive in. And the thing is, you don't even have to wipe the drive because it's encrypted data. Okay? It says right in there, it said, basically you're done at this point. If you have to get rid of the hard drive password, and it basically tells you the rest of the stuff's optional. And you go down and look at it, it's all, here's how to remove certain data, but you click on that link and it's the same thing. Get rid of the hard drive password, and then you can do this other stuff if you want. But as long as you're encrypted and it prompts you for an encryption password, just don't supply any passwords when you ship it back. And all they're going to do, like I said, is wipe the computer with a new OS if they decide to sell it. But they're all of the computers that they've been selling lately. I go look at the little page where you can go back and buy used equipment from my from my company. All of them have SSDs in them, and what they do is they buy bulk packages of these really cheap SSDs. They're like 100 gigabyte SSDs. They throw them in here, just slap the operating system on them, and ship them off. That's it. This has a spinning drive. So guess what they're going to do if they decide to sell this? They're going to rip that drive out and put it in a cheap SSD and ship it. They're going to be done. So Kelly learned something today. Hard drive passwords aren't BS. I love reading some of these accounts online. You start Googling around about how to get rid of the password, and basically you can't. This guy, one of the guys on one of the forums was like, look, my computer got stolen, and when they recovered it and I got it back, I actually got my computer back, they had put a password on the hard drive, so he could boot it up to the hard drive password, and it would sit there, and he couldn't get any further than that. Now his hard drive was not encrypted, so what you can do is you can pull the hard drive out, and you can actually mount it using an external drive bay or something, and it'll let you in to read the data on the drive if it's not encrypted. So that's what he was able to do. But he says basically you're screwed at that point because you cannot use that as a primary drive without that password. You have to toss the drive and go get another one. He said you can go get another drive cheap, go do that. Was the only suggestion people had. And I always took it for granted. I always just took it for granted that the whole concept of a hard drive password. Oh, there's got to be ways around it. Nope. There's no jumping pins. There's none of that. Apparently, they set it up so that if that code is in there and your hardware supports that standard, that is the hard drive password standard, which every drive does from the past 15, 20 years, you're hosed at that point. So that's what I learned today. Was to listen and pay better attention when it comes to this whole hard drive password thing. I think Apple gets around it because we have Macs now that don't have hard drive passwords. I think the way they get around it is you can't swap out the hard drive, basically. It's soldered to the mechanism. There's no plug. So you're stuck with that hard drive. In Apple's solution is, of course, anything goes wrong with that SSD that's in your Macintosh, you have to send it back to the factory, basically, or send it to a support center or something to get them to tear it apart and pop a new SSD in there, or send you a new Mac or something. They give you a discount on a new Mac. That's how they get around it. So the whole concept of, and plus Mac is nice with the whole recovery thing. If somebody steals your Mac, it's a lot more difficult for them to continue to use it because you can brick a Mac. When they log in, you say, here's my Macintosh, I can prove I'm the owner, here's the serial number, next time it goes online, brick it. And it will. You can remotely brick a Macintosh, a modern Macintosh. I don't know if it's set up that way, but I know that it can happen. So that's how they get around it, the whole hard drive password thing. I don't know what the next thing is going to be. I don't know. I know Microsoft with their, what is it, Surface? Microsoft Surface? Whatever that thing's called. They have something similar where they solder it all together. It's supposed to be like a tablet, and you can't replace the hard drive, this kind of stuff. You can't replace anything in it. And all the pieces are serial numbered together, so even if you try to cobble something together, stolen parts, it's not going to work. I don't know if they have I don't know if Microsoft has a remote wipe system built in. I know there's some software that'll let you do that. I know with Android you can rig up. It's prompted me if I want to set it up to do a remote wipe of the system. I can set it up so that if somebody steals it, I can go in and do some kind of code and it'll wipe it for me. Let's see, Android had something. I'm sure. Apple phones, iPhones have it too. Let's see, where was I going with that? I don't remember. But anyway, so that's what Kelly learned today. Take hard drive passwords a little more seriously than I used to.